Let's continue our conversation about CALM, Cash and Liability Mastery. We're going to talk a little bit about your money story. What's your money story? John Stuart Mill said people do not desire to be rich, only to be richer than other people. So if one thing we know about money is it's relative. You can feel like you have a lot of money and you meet someone who has a lot more money and suddenly you feel like you have something less. Or you can see someone on the side of the road, a homeless person, and realize, wow, I've actually done quite well, right? The alternative is in plain sight. So let's reflect again on how money is made, and then let's look at your individual money story around how you've made money and how that's played out in your life. First, when we think about money, there are four primary factors of production. There's land as a source of revenue. That could be farming, it could be timber, it could be renting or leasing land, but it's fundamentally land is the source from which money is made. There's labor, which we're all familiar with. We've worked delivering newspapers back in the day, working babysitting as a kid, working through college in the form of possibly studying and earning a degree. But then money is then made in applying that degree out there in the world as a worker. So as a labor person, right, we move through these processes and we say, okay, land is a natural resource, but labor, that's human beings doing work. And traditionally, when we do work, we are paid in this thing called money. So as we said before, we're exchanging our energy, our life energy, in the form of work and that compensation. There are many incredible forms of compensation that are rewarding and just seeing someone learn something new, right? But we're talking about factors of production, economic things that create money in your life. So if you don't have land that you're farming or that you inherited that provides income, and you're not working, then what are the other forms of production? Well, there's entrepreneurship, which is traditionally defined as work. So it's basically human beings doing work plus risk. So the main difference, you could almost say it's the difference between the W-2 and the 1099 initially. If you start your own business and you're working for yourself, you're taking more risk as an entrepreneur, but it's a factor of production. It's how many businesses get started. And then lastly, there's capital. That's money or property that is supporting land, labor, or entrepreneurship. So think about that. If you have discretionary money that you don't need, you would tend to take that capital and invest it. And where would you invest that money? You might buy land or real estate. You might invest in someone that you know as a worker or an entrepreneur that's starting a company. Or you might invest money back in capital, meaning you might invest in the stock market. But the stock market is a market of stocks, and those stocks are investing in land, real estate, labor, entrepreneurships, companies that make things and sell things. So money, in a way, is always being made and recycled through these different factors of production. Now, that's a basic understanding, but as we talk about creating and developing wealth, you're probably going to have income coming in the form of land, labor, entrepreneurship, and you'll have an opportunity to convert that into capital. And that's money that makes money for you. The money itself is a form of stored energy and labor that can be released to provide you wealth over time, income over time. So what's your money story? This is an interesting question. If you've never thought about it before, you may not even think that you have a money story, but we all have a money story. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is your story. And we'll see our little guy up there riding the mental bike. We want you to take some time here to pause. And I'm going to give you the definition of the different levels of money story that you might want to consider. But I want you to take a moment, because this is a very short lesson, and I want you to think about and construct your money story. So a street level money story is very practical. It's how you think about cash day to day when you're spending money on credit cards or debit cards or whatnot. But it's really a very pedestrian day-to-day view of money. I have money that I carry. Maybe I don't. Do I have a credit card? Am I using an online, my phone as my pay for? This is a philosophy about money, right? But it's how you interact with it day to day. Now, this is influenced by what we'll call the neighborhood level of money story, and that is your thoughts about money. Is money evil? Is money acceptable? Is money important? Is money something I don't care about but I have to have just to survive? So these are neighborhood level, we'll call it the thought level about money. And it's very important to understand that most of your money story comes from your parents and their parents and their parents. In other words, if you are a trust fund kid and you've had trust after trust turned over to you over time, you have a certain legacy or money story that plays out there. If you're a first generation kid that went to college and your parents didn't go to college and their parents didn't go to college and they'd struggled to finally get you to that point, money has a very different way that it plays out in the culture and fiber of your family. So at the city level, think of the cultural dynamic as a shared belief that your family has. It's about money, and it's about value, and it's about what other people have and what you have and what other people have that you don't have, what you have that other people don't have. So it's a cultural thought process about how money plays out in your life. And then there's this global. Think about the worldview of economy. When you turn on the news at night, we hear about the economy. Is it going up? Is it going down? Are we in a recession? Are we in a bubble? You know, is money supply going up or down? Is inflation going up or down? What does that mean to you and your job and your work? So all four of these are interacting on you on a daily basis. But you have to think about your money story. At least at the world level, you know that that's going to be something that happens and you'll be aware of it. But really look back at your family and think about what were the stories that we told about money? What were the conversations that we had about money? Was money taboo? You don't talk about money at the table. You don't talk about other people and their money. Or was it something you talked about regularly? These are all part of that story, and it's important to understand because as you're presented with new ideas and concepts and strategies for managing money and for developing a calm in your life, this is something that's easy to skip over, but it's probably one of the most important things for you to understand. Because once you understand your money story, the tribe that you grew up with and their tribe that they grew up with, you'll start to understand how you tend to behave when you're presented with money. Now, one thing we know about money is it does have an impact on our quality of life. You know, if you make less than $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year, we know as you make more money, your quality of life goes up. And this is studied each year. And it's interesting because income levels that make people the happiest is often surprising. It often runs between $95,000 and $105,000. I've seen upwards of $125,000 as that peak level where quality of life and income intersect. Now, this has a lot to do with your money story. If you believe you deserve to be really wealthy and you need a lot of money to be happy, that's going to push for you what that QOL or quality of life income level is. If you grew up from a family, say, that taught school and they were about giving back to the community, you might find that $60,000 or $70,000 a year is your okay. And we'll discuss that more in the future. But from a quality of life and income standpoint, we know that income does have an impact on your quality of life over time. So in our next session, we're going to start looking at money management overall.